In this episode of Stecker Studios, we add a handle to our mug. The technique I'm going to show you today involves starting off with a coil of clay. So we're going to roll out a coil of clay, and then we're going to begin to form it into a rectangle shape. To flatten out the edges of our coil, I'm lightly tapping it on the table and lightly tossing it back and forth in order to flatten out the edges and stretch out the clay into a rectangle. Now I'm going to begin stretching and forming our piece into a handle. What I'm doing here is lightly wetting my hands and fingers and gently pulling and stretching our handle into shape. As I lightly pull down on the clay stretches and forms to the shape of my hand, forming our handle. Make sure you keep your hands wet so that they glide over the clay easily and not to pull too hard on the clay, otherwise it will stretch and break. With this one done, I'm going to bend it back into shape and rest it so that it can stiffen up in order to be attached later. While that one is sitting up and drying, I'm going to form a second one. Three main things that you want to keep in mind when pulling a handle. Make sure you keep your hands wet so they glide over the clay easily. Make sure you maintain an even grip and pressure, and allow gravity to help you stretch that clay and pull it down into the shape of your handle. And when it's done, you'll be ready to set it down into shape and let it stiffen up before we attach it. Now I'm going to test fit and trim my handle before attaching it. It's a good idea to place your handle near the seam or over the seam in order to help camouflage the seam so it's less noticeable. Here I'm going to give the handle a little trim on the end. I'm going to cut it at a 45-degree angle to improve the angle that it comes off of our mug. Just giving it some last-minute shaping, and now I'm going to make sure that I thoroughly score the end of the handle where it's going to connect to the pot, and just give it a last-minute test fit. Now I'm going to mark the fit of our handle before I go ahead and score right on the mug itself. And I'm going to use the serrated rib tool, which does this nice, quick, and easy. Now we'll apply a generous amount of slip to both the mug and the base of our handle before we press it firmly together to connect it. Press it firmly into place and smooth the seam to make sure that you seal it up well. Now we'll put our handle into place and mark for fitment. And now again, we need to make sure that we thoroughly score both of our connection points. Add a generous amount of slip. And bend into shape your handle. Make sure everything is well aligned how you want it. And firmly press your pieces together to connect them. I'm going to Smooth and blend our seams. You can use a brush to get into some of the smaller seams that are a little harder to get your finger on. It's time to remove our soda can. We're going to pull the soda can up out of the newspaper and then remove the newspaper. Now you can use a brush or a tool to smooth the inside seams that you couldn't get to earlier. Rub your seams gently to smooth them out. Lastly, go back over your work with a damp sponge to smooth everything out. Make sure to smooth the rim so that there's no bumps or no sharp points that'll be unpleasant to drink from. And that just about does it for our mug. In our next video, we'll show you how to add a relief image to decorate and add a symbol to your mug.